The giant spaceship hung in the darkness above Earth. Inside, senior observer Zelnar stared at the blue planet through the viewing screen. His 6 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of boredom among his species. "Another primitive world," he said, to his assistant. "Look at them, still fighting each other over resources when they could be exploring the stars." The Galactic Confederation had been watching Earth for 50 Earth years. The Confederation included 17 different alien species who had joined together to rule this part of the galaxy. They were all more advanced than humans. They had faster ships, better weapons, and technology humans could only dream about. Zelnar tapped his long fingers on the control panel. "Humans are only a level 2 civilization. They have basic space travel, but nothing impressive. They are no threat to us." His assistant nodded. "Should we make contact now?" "Not yet," said Zelnar. "We will continue to watch them. They might destroy themselves soon anyway." 6 months later, everything changed. A human ship called the ISS Horizon ventured farther into space than any human ship before. By accident, it entered Confederation territory. The ship was small compared to Confederation vessels, with solar panels extending like wings from its central body. Inside the ISS Horizon, Captain William Bennett looked at the radar screen with concern. "Catherine, are you seeing this?" he asked. Catherine Simmons, the ship's language specialist, moved to his side. She had been chosen for this mission because she could learn languages quickly. Her brown hair was tied back in a practical ponytail, and her eyes widened as she looked at the screen. "That object is massive," she said, "and it's changing course toward us." Bennett tried to stay calm. "Send a message on all frequencies. Tell them we come in peace." Before Catherine could send the message, their ship shuddered. A bright beam of light surrounded them. "They've locked onto us with some kind of tractor beam," said Bennett. "We're being pulled toward them." In the Confederation ship, Zelnar was excited. "This is perfect timing. Their first deep space vessel has entered our territory. We can now make first contact and show them their place in the galaxy." He turned to his commander. "Bring them aboard. Prepare the welcome chamber. And inform Ambassador Tralix that it's time for him to earn his title." The human ship was guided into a massive docking bay. When the doors opened, Bennett and Catherine stepped out cautiously with 4 other crew members. They were met by strange creatures that walked on 2 legs, but looked nothing like humans. The aliens had blue-gray skin, 6 eyes arranged in a circle on their faces, and stood 7 feet tall. One alien stepped forward wearing elaborate robes. This was Ambassador Tralix. Behind him stood Zelnar and several guards with weapons. "Welcome, humans," said the ambassador through a translation device. "I am Tralix of the Galactic Confederation. You have entered our territory." Bennett stepped forward. "I am Captain William Bennett of Earth. We apologize for entering your space. We didn't know this area was claimed by anyone." The ambassador waved his hand dismissively. "No apologies needed. This is a fortunate accident. We have been watching your planet for some time. We believe you are now ready to join our confederation." Catherine listened carefully to the translation. She noticed something in the alien's tone that concerned her. "What exactly does joining your confederation mean?" she asked. Tralix smiled, showing rows of small teeth. "It means protection, guidance, access to some of our technology. In return, Earth will provide resources and accept Confederation authority." Bennett and Catherine exchanged looks. This didn't sound like an equal partnership. "We appreciate your offer," said Bennett carefully, "but we would need to discuss this with our world leaders. We weren't authorized to make agreements on behalf of Earth." The aliens seemed surprised by this response. Zelnar stepped forward. "Perhaps you don't understand," he said. "This isn't an offer that can be refused. The Confederation has 17 member species. Some joined willingly. Others needed persuasion." To emphasize this point, the guards activated their weapons. Energy crackled at the tips of devices that looked like advanced rifles. But the humans didn't react as expected. Instead of showing fear, Catherine stepped closer to examine the weapons. "Fascinating technology," she said, taking notes on a small device she pulled from her pocket. "How do they work? Do they use plasma or some kind of energy we haven't discovered yet?" The aliens were confused by her reaction. Humans were supposed to be afraid, not curious. Bennett smiled. "We understand you're very advanced, but on Earth, we value our independence. We'd be happy to establish peaceful relations and trade, but not as subjects." Ambassador Tralix was speechless. In all his years of bringing new species into the Confederation, none had ever simply refused. Zelnar pulled the ambassador aside. "These humans don't understand their situation. They think they have a choice. Perhaps a demonstration would help them understand," suggested Tralix. They returned to the humans. "We will show you our capabilities," said the ambassador. "Then you will understand why resistance is not an option." The aliens led the humans to a viewing chamber. On a large screen, they showed images of Confederation warships destroying an asteroid the size of Manhattan with a single blast. "Impressive," said Bennett. "But destroying rocks is different from destroying civilizations." Catherine was quietly recording everything with her device. The aliens didn't realize she was gathering intelligence on their technology and weaknesses. After the demonstration, the humans were returned to their ship. The aliens allowed them to leave, confident that they would report back to Earth about the Confederation's power. As the ISS Horizon departed, Zelnar spoke to the Confederation Council via hologram. "The humans are strange. They showed no proper fear. They refused our generous terms. I believe a small military action is needed to teach them humility." The Council approved his request. A fleet of 5 warships was ordered to follow the humans back to Earth. Their mission was simple: disable some military installations and orbital platforms to demonstrate Confederation power. Then the humans would surely surrender. What Zelnar didn't understand was that humans had faced threats before. They had fought wars against overwhelming odds. They had survived disasters that should have destroyed them. And most importantly, they never ever gave up. As the ISS Horizon raced back toward Earth, Bennett and Catherine prepared their report. Earth would have very little time to prepare for what was coming. "Do you think we have a chance against them?" Catherine asked. Bennett looked at the stars streaming past their ship. "The Confederation is more advanced. They have better weapons, bigger ships, more experience." He smiled at her. "But they've never faced humans before, and they're about to learn that we don't surrender easily." 3 months passed quickly. Earth's governments worked together for the first time in history. They knew what was coming. The recordings from Catherine Simmons had shown them exactly what they faced: an alien force with technology far beyond their own. Captain Joseph Martinez stood on the bridge of the USS Defiant, one of only 8 ships in Earth's hastily formed defense fleet. He was a veteran of naval battles on Earth, but space combat was new to him. Still, he understood one thing well: how to fight against superior forces. "Lieutenant Howard, status report," he said. Grace Howard looked up from her station. She was young but brilliant, with a mind that could see patterns others missed. "All ships are in position, Captain. We're hidden in the Van Allen radiation belts as planned. The radiation should mask our presence from alien sensors." Martinez nodded. It had been her idea to use Earth's natural radiation belts as cover. His years at sea had taught him that sometimes the environment could be your best ally. "The Confederation fleet has entered lunar orbit," reported another officer. 5 warships, just as our scouts reported. Martinez watched the screen as the alien vessels appeared. They were massive compared to Earth's ships, shaped like arrowheads with glowing engines. He felt a chill. Those 5 ships could probably destroy everything humans had built in space within minutes. On the lead Confederation vessel, General Zixnar prepared for what he considered a minor operation. "Target their military satellites first," he ordered. "Then their space stations. No direct attacks on the planet yet. This is just a warning." His weapons officer programmed the targets. "Sir, we're detecting some small vessels, possibly human ships. Zixnar waved dismissively. Primitive technology. They pose no threat. Proceed with the operation. The Confederation ships fired brilliant beams of energy at Earth's satellites. One by one, they exploded into clouds of debris. Next, they targeted the International Space Station. It was evacuated, but its destruction would send a clear message. As the aliens moved into position to fire on the station, Martinez gave the order. All ships, execute attack pattern Delta. Now. The 8 Earth vessels burst from the radiation belts like wolves from a forest. They moved in pairs, approaching the alien ships from different angles. Zixnar was shocked. Where did they come from? Why didn't our sensors detect them? Before his crew could answer, the human ships opened fire. Their weapons were primitive, by Confederation standards, but Martinez had ordered them modified based on Catherine's intelligence. The missiles split into multiple warheads just before impact, overwhelming the alien point defense systems. Several explosions rocked the lead Confederation ship. Minimal damage, reported a crew member. Their weapons are not powerful enough to breach our shields. Zixnar relaxed slightly. Return fire. Destroy 2 of their ships as a lesson. But the human vessels were already changing course, using Earth's gravity to slingshot themselves into new attack positions. They were moving unpredictably, making it difficult for the alien targeting systems to lock on. These maneuvers make no sense, said Zixnar's tactical officer. They're not following any standard combat pattern. Martinez smiled as the USS Defiant dove toward Earth's atmosphere, then pulled up sharply. He had studied old submarine warfare. Tactics. In space, like under the ocean, 3-dimensional thinking was essential. Lieutenant Howard, are you receiving the transmission from Earth? He asked. She nodded. Just came in, sir. Dr. Wells and her team have completed the program. Back on Earth, engineer Samantha Wells and computer scientist Eric Richardson watched their screens anxiously. They had been analyzing the alien communication frequencies captured by Catherine's recordings. The virus is ready, said Samantha, but we only get one shot at this. Eric nodded. If it works, their targeting systems should be disabled for about 3 minutes. That's all our ships will need, said Samantha. She pressed the transmit button. The signal traveled instantly to the Earth Defense Fleet. Each ship then began broadcasting it directly at the alien vessels on the frequencies the aliens used for internal communications. Aboard the Confederation flagship, chaos erupted. Our targeting systems are failing, shouted the weapons officer. Something is interfering with the guidance computers. Zixnar couldn't believe it. How is this possible? Their technology shouldn't be able to affect our systems. With the alien ships temporarily blinded, Martinez ordered all Earth vessels to attack simultaneously. They concentrated fire on a single Confederation ship, aiming for the spots Catherine had identified as potential weaknesses. To the aliens' shock, one of their vessels exploded in a brilliant flash. Impossible, roared Zixnar. Retreat to lunar orbit until systems are restored. The 4 remaining alien ships pulled back. What should have been a simple show of force had turned into an embarrassing setback. Once safely behind the moon, Zixnar contacted the Confederation Council. The holographic faces of the council members showed their displeasure. You lost a warship to primitives? Asked the council leader. They used unexpected tactics, said Zixnar. Their ships were hidden by radiation. They somehow infected our systems with a virus. They concentrated fire on weak points we didn't know we had. The council leader's expression darkened. How could they know your weak points? Zixnar suddenly remembered the human female who had studied their weapons so carefully during first contact. They've been analyzing our technology. They learn quickly. Clearly we underestimated them, said the council leader. Return to base. We will send a full invasion fleet. These humans must be too primitive to understand when they're beaten. Back on Earth, in a secured facility deep under the Rocky Mountains, scientists examined pieces of alien technology recovered from the destroyed Confederation ship. Samantha. Wells looked through a microscope at a tiny component. The materials are unlike anything we've seen before, but the principles are familiar. I think we can replicate this. Beside her, Eric Richardson was already writing code that mimicked the alien computer systems. Their programming is advanced, but has weaknesses. They never expected anyone to try hacking their systems. In orbit, Martinez and Howard watched the alien fleet retreat behind the moon. "They'll be back," said Martinez. "With more ships next time." Howard nodded. "We'll be ready. We know how they think now. They're predictable. They expect us to fight like them." "But we won't," said Martinez, looking at the Earth below them. "That's our advantage. We've been fighting against the odds since the first humans picked up stones against larger predators. We don't follow rules when we're outmatched. We change the game." In his report to Earth's Unified Defense Council, Martinez wrote, "The Confederation believes technology determines the outcome of battles. They're wrong. Humans have faced extinction many times in our history. Each time, we've survived because we adapt faster than any threat. The aliens have better ships and weapons, but we have something they don't understand: the absolute refusal to accept defeat." As Martinez finished his report, technicians around the world were already building new weapons based on alien technology. The Confederation had expected an easy victory. Instead, they had awakened humanity's greatest strength: the ability to learn from their enemies and turn those lessons into weapons. The real war was just beginning. 18 months passed since the first battle with the alien ships. What the Confederation had called the human problem had grown into something much worse for them. The quick victory they expected never came. Dr. Nicole Patel stood in her laboratory surrounded by pieces of alien technology. As head of Earth's Adaptive Technologies Division, she led the effort to study and improve upon Confederation tech. Her team worked day and night in the underground facility. "Look at this," she said to Alan Douglas, her chief engineer. "The aliens use a standard design for all their ships. They never change it." Alan nodded. He was a tall man with clever hands that could build almost anything. "That's their weakness. They think their way is the only way." Nicole pointed to a new engine design on her computer screen. "We've combined their propulsion system with our nuclear pulse technology. The result is a ship faster than anything in their fleet." On the other side of the lab, scientists tested new materials based on captured alien armor. Others worked on weapons that combined human and alien principles. Every failure taught them something new. Every success was immediately put into production. In orbit around Mars, Earth's new fleet took shape. 50 ships built in hidden facilities all over the planet. They weren't as large as Confederation vessels, but they carried innovations the aliens would never expect. The Confederation Council was growing frustrated. Their reports showed the humans should have surrendered months ago. Instead, Earth continued to resist. "We must end this," said the council leader. "Send Commander Quelthar. Give him our largest fleet." Quelthar was the Confederation's greatest military leader. In 300 years, he had never lost a battle. His massive ship, twice the size of any other Confederation vessel, led a fleet of 100 warships toward Earth. "These humans have been lucky," he told his officers, "but luck always runs out. We will surround their planet. Nothing will get in or out. They will starve until they surrender." The Earth Defense Council received the warning from their deep space monitors. The Confederation fleet would arrive in 3 days. "We can't match their numbers," said Admiral John Phillips, looking at the tactical display. Beside him, former video game programmer Frank Collins smiled. "We don't need to match them. We just need to confuse them." Frank had joined the defense effort after the first battle. His experience designing artificial intelligence for games had given him an idea. "Show them the drones," he said. Admiral Phillips pressed a button. A video showed thousands of small devices, each no bigger than a coffee cup. "These are too small to cause any damage," said one general. "They don't need to cause damage," explained Frank. "They just need to overwhelm the alien targeting systems." Frank's plan was simple but brilliant. Each tiny drone carried a small piece of alien technology that would make it appear as a larger ship on Confederation sensors. The aliens would waste time and resources shooting at targets that weren't real. When Quelthar's fleet arrived, they formed a ring around Earth as planned. Their sensors showed only the 8 human ships that had fought in the first battle. "Pathetic," said Quelthar. "Begin the blockade." target their communication satellites first. But as his ships moved into position, Earth launched its secret weapon. Thousands of tiny drones shot from hidden bases on the planet and from the dark side of the moon. On Confederation sensors, it looked like Earth had suddenly deployed an armada. "Impossible," shouted Quelthar. "Where did these ships come from?" His weapons officers frantically tried to target the small, fast-moving objects. Each time they destroyed one, their sensors showed another taking its place. While the Confederation fleet was distracted, Earth's real ships attacked from hidden positions near Mars. These new vessels moved faster than the aliens thought possible, using the hybrid engines Nicole and Alan had designed. Quelthar watched in disbelief as 10 of his ships were destroyed in the first hour. "Adapt to their tactics," he ordered. "Ignore the small vessels, focus on their main ships." But as soon as the Confederation changed tactics, so did the humans. Frank had programmed the drones to learn and change their behavior. When the aliens ignored them, the drones clustered together around key Confederation ships, blocking their sensors and communications. Even more surprising to the aliens, the humans had learned to use the Confederation's own communication network. By copying the alien signals, Earth's forces could send false orders to enemy ships. After 3 days of battle, Quelthar had lost 30 ships. He had never experienced anything like this. The humans didn't fight according to any rules or patterns, he recognized. When he adapted to their tactics, they simply changed to new ones. "Retreat," he finally ordered. "We need to regroup and develop a new strategy." As his damaged fleet pulled away from Earth, Quelthar prepared his report to the Confederation Council. How could he explain that the greatest fleet ever assembled had been defeated by a primitive species? In his quarters, he reviewed the battle recordings. Something about the humans bothered him deeply. Other species the Confederation had conquered fought bravely, but predictably. Humans were different. They don't just learn, he said to himself. They transform. Each defeat makes them stronger. He called this ability evolutionary combat adaptation in his report. It was not just technology or tactics. It was the human ability to turn failure into a new kind of success. On Earth, the victory celebration was brief. Everyone knew the Confederation would return with new weapons and tactics. The advantage of surprise would not work again. Nicole gathered her team. "We need to push harder. The aliens will adapt to what we did today. We need to be ready with something new tomorrow." Alan nodded. "I've been studying their power systems. I think we can develop weapons that target those specifically." Frank was already designing new drone behaviors. "Next time, we'll use their communication system against them even more effectively. We might even be able to turn their ships against each other." Admiral Phillips watched the scientists and engineers at work. In all his years of military service, he had never seen anything like this global effort. People from every nation worked together, each bringing unique perspectives and ideas. "The Confederation made a serious mistake," he said to his staff. "They thought we would be easy to defeat because our technology isn't as advanced. But technology isn't our greatest strength." He pointed to the room full of people working together, finding solutions to impossible problems. "That is our strength. Humans don't accept limits. We don't surrender when the odds are against us. We change the rules. We always find a way." In deep space, Quelthar's fleet limped home. For the first time in his long career, he felt something new: doubt. He had always believed that superior technology and numbers guaranteed victory. The humans had proven him wrong. In his final report, he added a warning. The longer this conflict continues, the more dangerous humans become. They don't just learn from defeats, they transform them into new strengths. Time is on their side, not ours. The Confederation Council read his report with growing alarm. What had begun as a simple disciplinary action against a primitive species had become the greatest threat they had ever faced, and the humans were just getting started. 3 years had passed since first contact. The Confederation was struggling to understand why their usual methods of conquest had failed with humans. They had never faced a species that grew stronger with each attack. Dr. Valnara, the Confederation's leading xenopsychologist, was assigned to study humans. She had spent her career understanding how different species thought. Now she faced her greatest challenge. In her laboratory aboard the Confederation science vessel, she watched recordings of human battles, studied their history, and analyzed their communications. "Fascinating," she said to her assistant. "Look at this historical record. A human force called Spartans once held off an army 20 times their size." Her assistant looked confused. Why would they fight when they knew they would lose? "That's what makes humans different," said Valnara. "They don't accept that they will lose, even when all logic says they should." She showed her assistant more examples from human history: small forces defeating larger ones, people surviving in impossible conditions, individuals accomplishing what seemed impossible. "Humans have a quality I've never seen before," she said. "When faced with extinction, they don't surrender. They become more resolved, more dangerous." On Earth, military psychologist Dr. Richard Lawson worked with pilot Laura Nichols on a new training program. They had discovered something important about human performance in battle. "The data is clear," said Richard, pointing to his charts. "Our pilots and soldiers perform best when they're fighting to protect something they love: their homes, families, or fellow soldiers." Laura nodded. She had experienced this herself during battles with the alien fleet. "When I thought about what would happen to Earth if we lost, I found strength I didn't know I had." Richard turned to the military officers watching his presentation. "We should restructure our defense forces, not by skill or experience, but by what they're fighting to protect." The plan was simple but effective. Defense squadrons were formed of people from the same communities. Each ship was named after the place its crew was defending. Pilots carried pictures of their loved ones into battle. The psychological effect was powerful. Meanwhile, the Confederation tried a new approach. If they couldn't defeat humans with weapons, perhaps they could break their spirit. Massive broadcast ships approached Earth, staying just out of weapon range. They began transmitting messages on all frequencies. "Your resistance is futile," the messages said. "The Confederation has conquered 17 species. You are alone in the galaxy. Surrender now, and your lives will be spared." They showed images of Confederation might, planets they controlled, vast fleets, weapons that could destroy entire continents. The Earth Defense Council gathered to discuss this new threat. "They're trying psychological warfare," said Admiral Phillips. "They want to break our will to fight." Laura Nichols had an idea. "Let's respond with our own broadcast, not to their fleet but to all the species in the Confederation." Her plan was approved. Earth's communication experts gathered stories from human history, tales of resistance against overwhelming odds, of freedom won through sacrifice, of tyranny overthrown by determined people. These stories were translated into all known Confederation languages and broadcast throughout their territory. The messages reached not just the military, but the common people of all 17 species. "You are not alone," the broadcasts said. "Humans stand with any who desire freedom." The effect was unexpected. Several of the subject species in the Confederation began questioning their own subjugation. If humans could resist, why couldn't they? Dr. Valnara was called to present her findings to the increasingly desperate Confederation Council. "Humans possess a psychological quality I call determined escalation," she explained. "When faced with extinction, they become more resolved, not less." She displayed data from the battles. "Look at their response times. Humans make decisions faster under pressure, while most species slow down. They take more risks when the situation is dire, not fewer." One council member asked, "Can we use this against them? Find a way to make them less determined?" Valnara shook her head. "Their determination comes from their history. Humans evolved on a planet with constant threats, predators, natural disasters, diseases. Those who gave up died. Those who kept fighting survived and passed on that quality." The council was silent as they absorbed this information. "There's more," continued Valnara. "Our psychological warfare has backfired. Human stories of resistance are spreading among our subject species. We're facing not just a military problem, but an ideological contagion. She showed reports of unrest on 7 Confederation worlds. These species were conquered through fear. Humans are teaching them not to be afraid. The council leader spoke grimly. We must contain this, increase control measures on all subject worlds, and prepare our ultimate weapons. If humans cannot be conquered, perhaps they must be eliminated. Back on Earth, Richard and Laura continued refining their understanding of human psychology under pressure. Laura had been working with pilots who had faced the alien fleet. There's something we're all experiencing, she told Richard. The aliens are so predictable. They always follow the same patterns, use the same tactics. It makes them vulnerable. Richard nodded. That's because their society values conformity. Ours values individuality and adaptation. This insight led to a new training program. Human pilots were taught to be unpredictable, to make decisions that seemed illogical but would confuse the aliens. Soldiers learned to use the Confederation's rigid thinking against them. The human resistance was not just about technology or tactics, it was about mindset. Dr. Valnara understood this better than anyone in the Confederation. As she finished her final report, she included a warning that she knew the Council would not want to hear. Humans cannot be defeated through conventional means, she wrote. Each attack makes them stronger. Each threat brings them together. Their greatest strength is not their weapons or technology, but their unbreakable will. She hesitated before adding her most controversial conclusion. In my professional opinion, there are only 2 options: make peace with humans as equals, or eliminate their species entirely. There is no middle ground. The Confederation Council read her report with growing alarm. Several members argued for immediate peace negotiations. Others insisted that total war was the only solution. As the Council debated, reports arrived of rebellions on 3 subject worlds. The stories humans had broadcast were spreading like wildfire. Species that had been conquered for centuries were beginning to resist. On Earth, preparations continued for the war everyone knew was coming. But something had changed. The fear that had gripped humanity in the early days was gone. In its place was a quiet confidence. Richard noticed this in his psychological evaluations. People aren't afraid anymore, he told Laura. They've seen what the Confederation can do and they know we can withstand it. Laura smiled. It's more than that. We've seen what we can do. The aliens thought they were unstoppable because they'd never been stopped before. Now they're learning what it means to face humans. As Earth prepared for the next battle, a message was broadcast to every home and shelter. It wasn't a grand speech or a call to arms. It was simply a reminder of what humans had always known. We are not fighting because we will win. We are winning because we will never stop fighting. In her laboratory, Dr. Valnara watched this broadcast and understood what the Confederation had failed to grasp from the beginning. The human strength wasn't in their ships or weapons. It was in their unshakable belief that they would prevail, no matter the odds, and that made them essentially unstoppable. 5 years had passed since the first contact between humans and the Galactic Confederation. What began as a simple misunderstanding had grown into a conflict that changed the galaxy forever. The Confederation faced a crisis unlike any in its long history. Not only had they failed to conquer Earth, but humans had developed technology that now rivaled their own. Worse, several member species had begun rebellions inspired by Earth's example. Earth's United Defense Council, led by Admiral Diana Powell, had transformed from a desperate resistance into a coordinated interplanetary force. Humanity had expanded throughout their solar system, building bases on Mars, the Moon, and several asteroids. The defensive line is complete, reported Admiral Powell, looking at the holographic display of the solar system. Every planet and major moon now had defense stations. Earth ships patrolled constantly. Her diplomatic officer, Jason Miller, had been busy establishing communication with dissatisfied Confederation species. 3 more worlds have declared independence from the Confederation, he told Powell. They're asking for our protection. The Confederation's Supreme Leader Gronthal called an emergency meeting of his highest commanders. His large frame towered over them as he paced angrily. This has gone too far. he said. Humans have become more than a nuisance. They are a cancer spreading through our territory. He turned to face his officers. Prepare our ultimate weapons. We will end this threat once and for all. The commanders looked at each other nervously. The ultimate weapons had never been used before. They were planet killers, designed to destroy entire worlds. Is this wise, Supreme Leader? Asked one commander. Dr. Valnara's report suggests, I don't care what the psychologist says, shouted Gronthal. I will not allow a primitive species to destroy everything we've built. Prepare the fleet. On to Earth. A new detection system created by Nicole Patel's team picked up the massive energy signatures of the approaching Confederation fleet. They're bringing everything they have, said Nicole, looking at the readings. Including weapons we've never seen before. Admiral Powell called an emergency meeting. How much time do we have? 3 days before they reach the outer system, replied Nicole. Powell turned to Commander Elizabeth Warren, who led Earth's main fleet. Commander, it's time for Operation Sunburst. Elizabeth nodded grimly. Operation Sunburst was their most daring plan yet. It would either save Earth or leave them completely vulnerable. As the Confederation fleet approached Neptune, they were surprised to find no resistance. They moved cautiously toward Saturn, then Jupiter, finding only empty space, where they expected human defenses. Supreme Leader Gronthal watched from his massive command ship. Where are they hiding? He demanded. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the Confederation fleet. Human ships appeared all around them, materializing as if from nowhere. Impossible, shouted Gronthal. How did they get behind us? What the Confederation didn't know was that humans had mastered faster-than-light travel, while the aliens were planning their attack. Using principles discovered in the captured alien technology, Nicole and Alan had developed a system that allowed ships to jump instantly, from one point in space to another. Commander Warren's voice came through on all Confederation frequencies. Attention, Confederation fleet. You are surrounded. Power down your weapons. Gronthal laughed. You think a few ships can stop us? We have weapons that can destroy your entire planet. We know, replied Warren calmly. That's why we took precautions. Before Gronthal could respond, a specialized squad of human ships appeared directly beside his command vessel. Using the new jump technology, they bypassed all his defenses. In seconds, they had boarded his ship. The human boarding team moved quickly through the alien vessel. Unlike previous encounters, they now had armor and weapons built using Confederation technology. They faced little resistance as they made their way to the command center. Gronthal was shocked when the doors to his bridge opened and human soldiers entered. This is impossible, he said. The squad leader removed her helmet, revealing herself as Captain Laura Nichols. Supreme Leader Gronthal, you are now our prisoner. On Earth, Admiral Powell received the news with relief. Tell Commander Warren to proceed with Phase 2. With Gronthal captured, the Confederation fleet was in chaos. Many ships tried to continue the attack, but the human vessels used their jump technology to appear and disappear at will, striking from unexpected angles. Then, something unexpected happened. 3 Confederation ships turned their weapons on, their own fleet. Then 5 more did the same. Soon nearly a quarter of the alien armada had switched sides. Jason Miller's diplomatic efforts had succeeded. The subject species within the Confederation had chosen this moment to revolt. The battle was over in hours. The remaining loyal Confederation ships retreated, leaving behind their supreme leader and many of their most powerful weapons. In the Boer aftermath, Gronthal was brought to Earth. He expected to be executed, as was Confederation practice with captured leaders. Instead, he was taken to a conference room where Admiral Powell waited. Why am I still alive? He asked. Because that's not how we do things, replied Powell. We want peace, not revenge. She pushed a document across the table. These are our terms, not for surrender, but for cooperation. Gronthal read the document in disbelief. The humans were offering a complete restructuring of the Confederation, where all species would have equal rights and representation. There would be no more conquerors and subjects. Why would you offer this when you could destroy us? He asked. Because destruction is easy, said Powell. Building something better is hard. But that's what humans do. We don't just survive. We try to improve. 20 years later, senior observer Zelnar, now much older, sat in his study writing his memoirs. The former Confederation had been replaced by the Galactic Cooperative, where species interacted as equals rather than conquerors and subjects. Zelnar had become an advocate for human inclusion in galactic affairs. He had seen firsthand how they had transformed the galaxy. Our greatest mistake, he wrote, was assuming technological superiority equated to species superiority. We failed to understand that the humans' greatest technology wasn't in their ships or weapons, but in their unrelenting spirit and adaptability. He paused, thinking back to that first meeting with Captain Bennett and Catherine Simmons. They had shown curiosity rather than fear. That should have been his first clue. When faced with impossible odds, he continued writing, humans don't calculate probabilities of success. They simply refuse to accept defeat as an option. In doing so, they taught the galaxy that no species is truly unstoppable unless they believe themselves to be. He closed his book and looked out the window at the Earth ships docked alongside vessels from a dozen different worlds. Humans had spread throughout the galaxy, not as conquerors, but as explorers and teachers. They had taught the former Confederation something it desperately needed to learn. True strength comes not from dominating others, but from lifting them up, and perhaps most remarkably, they had done what no species had ever done before. They had stopped what was considered unstoppable. In the process, they had created something better for everyone. Zelnar smiled at the irony. The Confederation had feared humans would destroy their way of life. And they had been right, but not in the way they expected. Humans hadn't destroyed through violence, but through hope, by showing the galaxy a better way to exist. As night fell over the new Galactic Cooperative headquarters, ships from Earth and 17 other worlds moved peacefully through the stars. The galaxy had been transformed, not by force, but by the one thing the Confederation never understood: the simple, unstoppable human refusal to give up. The end.